I'm going to pop it on. For those of you that didn't read the bio of Kevin's, I popped it into our invite. We're going to talk about, well, hopefully we're going to talk about profit maximization. So Kevin has been driving this for the last 20 years and is extremely successful behind what he's done. I heard him speak a couple of weeks ago, and the information that he was sharing is definitely something that every business owner should be listening to. And that's why I invited him to come and join us today so that we can gain as much knowledge as possible to help every one of the businesses. So Kevin, thank you very much for taking the time to come and join us this morning. It's always interesting in South Africa because we never really know who's load shedding and who's not load shedding, but we are recording this and it will go into the alumni group. So thank you so much for joining.
Entirely my pleasure. You have load shedding, and here in Australia, we have the world's 69th fastest internet. So sometimes our internet's slow as well. So between us, hopefully the internet works and the energy stays on. Regarding today's session, and you're right, I want to talk about this topic of profit maximization, and specifically this topic of stop leaking profit. And I've spent a lot of time with a lot of different business owners, and I find very frequently that there's a lot of things that we do as business owners, which if we were aware of them, we'd stop doing them and we'd just have more profit in our pocket. We'd have more cash and we could invest that in businesses. And I'm so very passionate about that. I do live down here in Australia, and I'm considered as one of the leading profit maximization experts in the country. And I love about this topic. I love this topic so much because a lot of people talk about, leads and revenue, and ultimately revenue doesn't make much difference. What really makes a difference to you is your profit, the thing you have left over. Like I have a couple of young children, and I can't take my children and give them opportunities based on the revenue. I can only take them based on the profit that I manage to keep in my business. So if you would agree that profit is a really important topic, just type the word yes in the chat box. And whilst you do that, I'd like to get a bit of a feel from you around the size of the businesses that we have on the call. So if you can and that would change the examples that I give with you. So if you can just type into the chat box whether you are a 5-figure, a 6-figure, or a 7-figure plus business. Okay, so 5, 6, or 7. And that's in annual revenue, 5, 6, or 7 in annual revenue.
So remember, we in rands, so ours would probably be a little bit more. Most of them will sit in 7 to 8 figures.
Okay, great. 7 to 8 figures in rand. And I want you to think about your profitability right now. I won't ask you to share what it is. That's private to you. But maybe if you could type into the chat box, either enough if you feel like you already have enough profitability in your business, or more if you feel like you would be open to making more. So either enough or more. Okay, great. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Dion. Heck more. I like that. We're very clear on that then. Look, I think we can summarize it. There are really two major leakages in business today. One is that we are under converting our leads. So we get people who show interest in our service and we're not converting them very well. And then number two is that we are under servicing our clients. So today I'm going to talk about how do we get to turn this around. And just to give you a very brief little bit about my background, I spend my time working one-on-one with business owners to help them really maximize their profitability. I've done that over the years. I've lived in different countries. I got to live in Australia now, and the UK and the Netherlands. And so we work remotely with our clients. I've been trusted to present all over Australia, teaching, marketing and growth strategies. For a while, I was there presenting with Tony Robbins too. Here I am on one of his stages, teaching some of his powerful content about coaching, and then quite a bit through Asia. And here I am in Hong Kong and Singapore. Now, the reason these industries trust me and why they allow me to come in is because I get to see the different trends in the different industries and different countries I work with. I get to see different trends from different industries and I share them across. And they really trust me because I help them on their 5 steps to freedom. And so in these 5 steps to freedom, it's really about how do we get you to a place where we are at number 5 there, where you're having a business where it can work without you. You have all the time freedom, you have the cash flow and the money coming in. Where a lot of us start though is in this creation phase. We have an idea and we think, hey, this would be really great, and then we launch it. Sometimes shortly after that, we find ourselves in this period of chaos because we have to be investing in a team and in growing. Okay. And then once we get through that chaos, we can get to a place where we put a bit of control in the business. We can start measuring things, start expanding things. And if we do that well, we get to a place of prosperity where we can be focusing on, really specializing what we do, put it in systems, processes, and then we get to that stage where the business can run without us. As I talk through that, I'd like to get a feel for you. Where are you at in your business right now? I appreciate at different times you may be different places on here, but at this point in time, would you say you're in number 1, creation, number 2, chaos, 3, control, 4, prosperity, or 5, freedom? If you just type that in the chat box for me, that would be awesome. Thank you, Dion. So you are in a place of control. Lauren, place of control. Okay, brilliant. And Diane between 3 and 4. Okay, this is great. This is great. So it sounds like you're making a great progress. And so we've got established business owners on the call rather than people who are just starting. Christine, number 4 as well. So, hey, that's great. Then I will change some of my examples to really address existing business owners like you as opposed to the early stage ones. Now, what I also would love to share with you to help you make this assessment a little bit deeper, I've got a profitable business scorecard, and you'll be able to go through this in a couple of minutes, and it outlines a 36-point checklist, which will help you identify where are the gaps, where are we actually leaking profitability right now. So I'll give you the link. Oh, I was going to say I'll give you the link at the end of the call. It's on the screen there if you want to take that now, but I'll give you the link so it's clickable at the end of the call as well. The key thing is that I want to get through in terms of today's call then is my promise is I'm going to help you find an extra $100,000 of profit without any extra time or extra risk. I know I can do this because I do it frequently. We get positive feedback all of the time. And so I did one of these sessions recently, and I had this feedback from this gentleman. His name was Paolo. And he said he jumped on a call with me, and in 45 minutes, we did find the $100,000 for him. And so he highly recommends so that we jump on the call. Now, how am I so confident on that? Is because I think businesses, every business I stand around, I see that they have a leaky bucket. If I stood around them and I scooped up all of the opportunity that they were dropping, if I could do that, I would be very rich, very wealthy, because every business leaks. And I think there's 7 key areas that they leak. And that's where I want to go into with the remainder of our time today. And these leaks come from what I share in this book here. I'm going to pop this in the chat box so you can grab a copy of this. You don't need to. Oops. Let me just try that again. A little bit of luck. There you go. Cool. You can take that one. You don't need to give me an email address or anything like that. You can have that. It's just I'm not going to get through everything in detail on the call today. So I'd like to just have a copy of that book. But let's just jump through. What are these 7 key leaks that we have then? Oopsie. Oops. There you go. Number 1 is the first leak is that we're not attracting enough new qualified leads. And the word qualified is the key piece there. We can often get leads, and attention or interest, but if they're not our ideal clients, it can take up a lot of our time. So 1, we don't do that. Number 2, we are frequently not converting prospects, at a high enough conversion ratio, or not quick enough. We can take too long to make that conversion happen. Number 3 is we're not maximizing the average dollar spend of each client. Okay, as they come through the door, certain clients would spend way more money with you if we actually position things that would serve them in the right way, that would help them in the right way. Number 4, we aren't getting them to purchase frequently enough. Some people, make one sale and then that's it. They never ask again. Prime example, we had a gardener come around just to cut the lawns or the grass for us, and they could have come back every 2 weeks forever. Like they could have kept coming, but didn't seem any interest in asking to come around for a second time or third time. And it's like that's wasting a massive amount of opportunity. Now you guys are more experienced business owners. I maybe you're not making such a simple mistake as that one, but it happens frequently. There's often more opportunities to have your clients purchase more frequently than they are now. Number 5 is that we're not managing expenses effectively. Every time I say this to business owners, they say, oh no, we've done that. We manage that very carefully. We do very well there. But typically when we look, we can find that there are some more efficient or more effective ways that we can actually get focused on that and make that happen, so that we manage the cost more effectively. Number 6 is that we're not managing time effectively. Now, if you are businesses which depend a lot on team and salaries, potentially your employee cost is one of your biggest costs. If we're not managing the time of ourselves or a team effectively, then we're not going to get the best return on the time that we have invested. And that could definitely lead to a leak in your profitability. And then number 7, not managing cash effectively. If we manage our cash effectively, we can reinvest it to higher yielding assets or higher yielding returns. But if we're not keeping our eye on the ball, then we can be letting it leak out the door. So these are the 7 key areas. As I say, I want to get through all of these 7 areas, but the book there's a good 125 different strategies in there that we talk about. It's come from a good 20, 25 years in the industry and seeing all these different businesses. So highly valuable. Make sure you go through that one. So question is, out of these 7, where do we start? What's the best place? Now, when I asked my mentor about this, hey, where's the best place to start? He said, start by hiring an expert, right? He said, if you can get an expert on your side, of course, you're going to find your way to this, to this outcome much, much faster. A lot of business owners really think that the main place to start is to get more leads, but I'm not so sure about that. I think most business owners don't need more leads and more marketing. I think if they were to focus on maximizing what they already have, they would get more profit and more peace of mind. Someone asked this question of me recently, which I thought was a really smart question. They said, hey, Kevin, if you can never go out and get a new lead, another lead ever again, you can only ever do work with the people who already know you, the people who have already connected with you. How would you change your business? What would you do? And it's a bit of an alarm bell, because if you could never go out and get another lead again, you would really take extra special care of all the people around you. You would really seek to see what are their needs and how can I serve them and how could I help them. So whilst I think leads are important, and depending on the stage of your business, it can really help. I think right now what's more important for us is to talk around your conversion and your conversion ratio. So I wonder for you, and by conversion, I mean every time you have a prospect come to you and show an interest in working with you, what percentage of those end up becoming a client? Okay, so out of every 100, roughly how many of those who speak to you end up becoming a client? So do you know what your current conversion percentage is? If you know what your current conversion percentage is, you could type yes in the chat box, or if you actually know what the number is, type a percentage. And if you don't quite know what your conversion percentage is, then that's okay. That's great. That's one thing that we can take action on today. We can go and find out. So do you know what your conversion percentage is? So that's a yes or no. And if you know what it is, feel free to type the percentage in. Okay. All right. Okay, bit of a mix here, some yes, some no. So, okay, great. So for those of you that know what your conversion ratio is, that's brilliant. And if you don't, that's great. We have an assignment. We'll go away and find out what that is. Now, just the fact that you identify that number and you measure it and monitor it, sometimes what gets measured gets done, or what gets measured can expand. So if you look at it and realize it's not where it wants to be, the fact that you're focused on it could be enough to help shift and change your conversion ratio anyway. Now, what is your current conversion percentage? I was working with a kitchen installer, and he didn't know his conversion percentage either. When we looked at it, we found out that his team were doing a conversion rate of around 20%. Now, he is the business owner who'd been in the business for 30 plus years. When he went out to do the sales, he would convert 80%, so 80. So he was converting 4 times as much as his guys. So when we had a conversation around that, we decided, hey, well, what if we set a new standard for our team? If we set the standard to say, hey, it's okay if you're at 20% right now, but our standard to be on the team is 50%. Now, we knew that was possible because he was getting 80%. So we just set the standard. Now, that was a good place to start, because once we set the standard, it gave the team something to aim at. We then went through a list that's in the book I've gifted you. There was a list of 24 items in there, and we picked a handful to focus on. Okay, first we picked, hey, let's work on the sales script. How can we create more desire and more urgency in the sales conversation? Number 2, how can we have the team create more rapport and more connection? Okay, simple thing. Once they go out, they're in people's homes. What are some of the simple things they can do to help that prospect or that customer feel like they like them, like they want to do business with them? And number three, we spoke about how do we do a risk reversal? How do we put a guarantee in place so the customer feels comfortable that they're not taking a big risk by going with their company? Now, these were a handful of things that we did. Now, what happened over a period of 3 to 6 months of working with the sales team, their sales in this company went from the 20% up to 40%. Now, that was like a doubling of their business. They didn't need any more leads to come through the door. They actually doubled the amount of revenue they were doing just by changing this process and this conversion. So I wonder for you, what would doubling your conversion be worth to you in your business? Maybe write that number down. If you could actually double the conversion ratio you have right now, then what would that mean for you? Now, if some of you are getting a lot of your leads via referral, your conversion ratio may already be maybe 80 or 90%, right? And so that may be a little bit tricky for you to double that. But what we could look at is what happens if we bring on other marketing streams, or what happens if we begin to work on some price increases, etc. So what would doubling your conversion be worth to you? Okay. In relation to conversion, it's also important not just what percentage of people we convert, but also what are we converting them into? So one of my clients owns a jewelry store. They make jewelry and they sell the jewelry. And the question I was asking is, are we focusing your sales on your highest margin products or services? And when we looked into it, they were really selling two main products. They had diamonds and they had sapphires. Now, interestingly, the products were a similar price when they sold them, these diamonds and sapphires in the marketplace. But what happened is we got them focused in on, we realized that the sapphires, there was more margin in them. So when the customer came in, if they could sell more of these sapphires, even if the customer spent the same amount of money, they would end up keeping more money in terms of their gross profitability. So that became a focus. It was a great product. The client was happy with it. When we did that, it ended up with a 52% increase in gross profit margin. But here's the exciting piece. If you already past your break-even point, then whatever you do in your gross margin is going to drop straight through to the bottom line. So their net profit jumped even higher. What's important about this profitability is the impact it can have on your life. So for them, because we were focusing on this and some other things, they hit their 3-year target in 6 months. They were able to hire a jeweler. So the husband who was the jeweler in the business, he didn't have to be at the counter making these things the whole time. Because they were so busy, they were able to hire a cleaner at home and a chef to help create some food certain days of the week. And this is the best bit. They managed to buy a new boat and they had holiday time. So I live in a beautiful seaside town. They were able to come up here and have a holiday for a week, and we got to hang out and have some pizza and some drinks together, whilst their business was still running and growing without them. So getting this conversion right can make a very big difference. So I wonder, do you know how to position your most profitable products during your conversion process? And do you know which are your most profitable products? If you don't know about them, which are the most profitable, then we should take a look at that and find out what they are. And then we can start positioning those in the process. So right now, I guess as we go through this presentation, I'd just like to make sure you've got written down what is your current conversion percentage and what would you like your conversion percentage to be and what would that be worth to you. So just take a second to make sure you have that noted. Okay. Next then is the average dollar sale. And I'm going to keep just moving super fast because I know we have a short time window. If you want to ask any questions at any point, feel free to unmute and shout them out or punch them in the chat box. But for now, let's keep going then in terms of the average dollar sale. So this is how much money your client spends with you on average in each transaction. Okay. Now, are you maximizing the average spend of each client is the question I'm going with here. So question one is, do you know what is the average dollar sale? If I ask you that right now, could you tell me very clearly what is the average dollar sale from each client? So give me a yes or a no in the chat box. Do you know what is the average dollar sale in your business? Diane, yes, you're on the money. Dion, okay, there's a great opportunity, Dion. We can do some sums and identify that for you. Conrad as well, same opportunity. Okay, so this is great. Now, how do you calculate that? You can just take the, just take in a period of a week or a month if you want. what was the total revenue that came in divided by the number of transactions, and that will give you your average dollar sale. Okay, so let's share an example with you. I worked with a company, they're an IT company, and they're an Atlassian specialist. That's a certain type of software. And I mean, what they do doesn't particularly matter for this example. For them, they sell licenses to organizations and help them develop applications and products. Okay, so we reviewed 15 different strategies that are in the report I shared with you there. And what we realized was that they had way more services that they could be offering these clients than they were actually offering them. So we decided that we would start making bigger offers, offering more services from the start. They were effectively going in and saying, hey, this is what you need, you can have this bit, when really they could do all of this stuff. So we started saying, hey, here are all the things that we could do. Clients didn't always take everything, but they probably took more than they were in the first place. So we could start to pre-frame this roadmap with clients. Look, here's where you are, here's really where you need to be, here are all the things that we can do. We also started to include in their initial sales conversation, to demonstrate with some statistics the return on investment they were getting. And they would be able to say, hey, when we implement this piece of software in the organization, typically it saves X number of heads or X number of hours. And so it was very easy to show that with other organizations they did it with, how many hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars it would save. So that made the whole conversation go a bit easier. For this organization, they ended up getting a 1.5 times revenue increase over a period of 12 months and an 8.9 times increase in their profitability. Again, once you pass that break-even point, every extra dollar we make in gross margin drops straight through to you in your net margin. I have another question for you in terms of average dollar sale. One of the low-hanging fruit or the easy ways that we can increase the average dollar sale is to increase our prices. So when was the last time you increased your prices? I'd love to maybe hear from you. When was the last time you increased your prices? Okay, Conrad, recently then in the last few months then, if it's this year, so that's good. September. Okay, Dion, April. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so we've got a bit of a mix here, a bit of a spread, but actually the handful of you have been in the last 6-7 months. That's good. That's great. I know sometimes it could be way longer than that for certain groups. So maybe this is a topic that you guys have been talking about already. Let me tell you why you want to do a price increase. This is a mathematical table, okay? And what it tells us is that depending on your level of gross margin, okay, how much gross margin you have, and the amount that you increase by, it tells us how much less work you would need to do. So as an example, if you had a 30% gross margin business and you increased your prices across the board by 5%, you would need to do 14% less work to make the same money. All right, you could drop 14% of your clients and still make the same money. Okay, or let's give you another example here then. In a 40% gross margin business, you could do a 10% increase across the board to your prices, and you could lose 20% of your clients and still be in the same position, right? 20% less work. Now, typically people have the fear they're going to lose clients, but in most cases they don't. When we position it in the right way, those clients stay, and it just means that you end up making more money for doing the same work. Now, Neil, I was a client I worked with. He was selling boat parts, and we went through and reviewed that he had, and he put his prices up. Now, what it meant for him is he ended up being in a position where he could take an extra day per week off. So he was taking Fridays off to have time, with his children. Had another lady who had a children's play center. She put a price up 20%. No one complained. Everyone was still happy with the service that they were getting. I mean, she really wishes she did that sooner. Now, can this work for all businesses? Yes, it can, but I think certain industries, lean itself to it a little bit better. I had a lady in a session, she said, hey, Kevin, I run a coffee shop. There's no way I could put the price of my coffees up because my customers just won't stand for that. And okay, I was inclined to agree. People are very sensitive to the price of their coffee, but could she put up the price of her acai bowl or her sandwiches and them not realize so much? Yeah, for sure. People weren't as sensitive to those things. So we can pick and choose. Had another client. He managed to get a lot of time back for himself. He put his prices of his gardening up. He's charging his guys out at $60 per hour. He went up to $75 per hour. and he was fine. There's still more work in that field and in that industry than he can keep up with. So yeah, putting your prices up can make a major difference. So my question for you is, are your customers, if you haven't put your price up recently, are your customers as price sensitive as you think? A lot of customers are more open to this right now because they're hearing frequently on news about inflation and increasing costs. So a lot of them are being warmed up to what may be coming in terms of your price increases. Now, the impacts of this can be quite powerful. This is someone else who's on a presentation like this, and they shared that they did this. They put the price of their service up without increasing the cost of their physiotherapist, and they said conservatively it made them another 30 to 45,000 per year by doing this one strategy alone. Okay. The bit you may notice there, I asked them, did your customers have a problem with this? And he said none of them mentioned it. So I think that was a nice piece. Okay. So the question was, when was the last time you increased your prices, and how much could a price increase add to your bottom line? That's the one for you to think about there. And if you have a feeling on that, just maybe note down what difference would that make to you. Now, for those of you who haven't put your price up, here's a question. Do any of you discount your services? Do anyone ever discount your services? I'm seeing so no, right? Conrad's a definite no. That's okay. So it's not just not no, that's like a no way. So that's good. Conrad, I'm glad to hear that, because here's what happens the other way then. Let me show you the table on this one. If you begin to discount your prices, let's just say you have a 30% gross margin business and you do a 5% discount across the board, you have to do 20% more work to make the same money, okay? Or let's pick a 40% margin business and a 10% price discount across the board. That's 33% more work you have to do. So I have 3 rules when it comes to discounting in business, and that's don't discount. Number 2 is don't discount. And just in case you don't get the message, number 3 is like, don't discount, right? We're not discounting. We've got to find other ways. And I want to give you a great example of this. I was in New York and I walked past this shop and it had this sign up, $3 haircuts, why pay more? And they were queued around the corner. Of course, you can imagine $3 haircuts. And I walked to the shop opposite. It was also a hair salon. And of course, their prices were the normal range, $30, $40, $50, whatever, the price of the haircut was there. And I said to them, wow, this shop opposite have put their prices down significantly. What are you going to do? Are you going to reduce your prices? And the owner said, no. And he takes out this board and he starts writing on this board and he puts it in the window and it said, we fix $3 haircuts, right? Now, the idea of this, or the concept of this, of course, is that we can compete on price, which could often be a race to the bottom, or we can choose to compete on quality. We can differentiate ourselves and show how we are the better provider, how we have, better quality to offer. And there's always a way that we can bundle in additional value or increase, the perceived value of our product before we actually start going down the route of reducing prices. So let's think about how do we add more value to the customers so they want to stay with you, as opposed to reducing prices. And we're doing okay for time, right? So I can keep piling through these. That's good. We're good. Okay. So here's another question. Do you price anchor? Right now, the idea of a price anchor is really that over time, the longer someone knows you, the more money they're likely to spend with you because they build more trust over time. And so the idea of a price anchor is if we can get your prospects to think of the biggest price or the biggest service you have, and they're fixated on that, then every other product or service you offer underneath it seems like really great value. So let me give you an example of this. This is kind of more so for a service-based business model, maybe coaching, consulting type of thing. So you may see over the time there, people may have your free products, your blogs, your ebooks, your presentations. They then might start buying, your videos or your reports. Okay, so these are just more information. As people spend more time with you, they may be more likely to want to go and join your group event or your online course. So it's more implementation focused. Or at the very top end, they may want to be involved in your membership community, come on retreats or things like that. Now, as I mentioned, I worked with Tony Robbins for a while, for 4 or 5 years. I was a leading coach on his team. Now, he did price anchoring very well because he would stand on stage and he would frequently say to people, if you want to work with me, it will cost you $1 million per year plus a percentage of the upside of your business, plus I have a 5-year wait list, right? Now you're anchored to the fact that, hey, coaching with this guy is $1 million a year. $1 million a year. Your brain is like, it's $1 million a year, it's $1 million a year. Later in his program, when he says, hey, I've done a really great job training these coaches. They're really amazing. I've selected amazing people. I've done a lot of training with them. And by the way, you can work with them for 10 or 15,000 a year. How good does 10 or 15,000 a year sound in comparison to the million? Right? It sounds very good in comparison. Your brain is anchored to the $1 million. If he hadn't done that anchoring, if he said, hey, it's 10 to 15,000 a year to work with my clients, well, you're searching around for a comparison and you'd be thinking about, well, someone outside of Tony's room will do this for 3,000 or 4,000. So he's anchoring to what he wants. He's helping you compare that. I spoke about this with a client who was an artist, and in his shop, he typically, his average dollar sale was around 4,000, and his pieces in his shop were 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 was the most expensive piece he had on his wall. And I asked him, what's the most expensive piece he could paint? He said, hey, well, if I really put some effort into it, I could paint a $25,000 piece. It would be this massive piece. Okay. So he put up a $25,000 piece. Now, interestingly, what happened once he put up that bigger, more expensive piece, the average dollar sale on the rest of the shop went up, because people now weren't comparing between the 3, 4, 5,000. They were comparing with the 3 to 25,000. So all of a sudden he had the ability for people to be buying $5, $6, $7, $8,000 pieces because psychologically they were anchored to the bigger price. Okay. Now, sometimes the price anchor doesn't even need to be in there for the sake of that comparison for your client. It can sometimes be in there just as a good publicity piece, a good PR. I had a lady I was working with. She had a cat hotel. Okay. So these it was near the airport. People would drop their pets off, go away on holiday, and they would take care of the pets, you know. And so anyway, we discussed this idea of the price anchor, and she said, hey, well, if I want to do something really big, really extreme, what I could do is when the cats arrive, we can serve them a prawn on bone china. We can give them massages during their stay. We can have our staff dress up in maid's outfits, and we can offer 24 hours a day from wherever you are in the world. You can FaceTime with your pet. And of course, it sounded like a great idea. Like, why not do this? Said, if you're going to do this, what are you going to have to price it at? She said, well, look, to have people with the pets 24/7, I need to put this at $1,400 a night. Now, the normal cat hotel was like $35, $40 a night, but this luxury stay was $1,400 a night. So we wrote it up. We wrote a press release and we sent it out to the local press. She was based in Sydney. And all of a sudden she got all this press, you know, across Sydney and New South Wales. Of course, the radios picked it up and we're talking about it. Now, did she ever sell a $1,400 a night stay? Never sold one. Did she sell a heap more at $35 to $40 a night? Yes, a heap more, right? So sometimes it could be a bit of a marketing ploy or a marketing gimmick. We've had clients do, you know, they had the regular toasties, but then they had I think they had a truffle toasty. Or one had cakes with a gold leaf on it, right? And it was just extra special ingredients, and it increased the, you know, the perceived value and perception. So rather than someone paying $10 for the toasty, this truffle sandwich was all of a sudden $20 for the toasty, right? And it got people attention. Hey, they're doing something unique here, something different. So the core idea around price anchoring, though, is more about this contrast. You know, when I'm presenting my programs or, you know, or options to people, I present the highest price first, then the medium, then the lowest. And the reason I do it that way is because psychologically people are anchored to the highest price. The first thought is they've got the highest price. I'm not then trying to tell them the lowest and then convince them to come up. I'm saying, hey, here's what you really want. Here's the best option. If that doesn't fit your budget right now, let's go here. And people are happy to go with that. Now, every time, it always fascinates me. Every time I increase my prices or put a higher price anchor there, I always think, oh, you know, people aren't going to go for this. This is too expensive. And there are always people who want to buy that top thing. So if you are going to create a price anchor, create one that you think you would be happy delivering, because there's always someone who only wants the best, right? So how can you create that price anchor in your business? Okay. So how much value could a price anchor create to your organization if you were to implement it? Alrighty. Now we have about 10 minutes, so I'm going to keep pushing through. Any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I want to talk about the number of transactions. So are we packaging up your services in a way that people can buy from you more frequently, more often? I had a lady I was working with. She was a rapid transformational therapist, which is kind of like a hypnotherapist. And she was effectively selling people on 1 or 2 sessions at a time. And they would do their 2 sessions, and then she would have to convince them to buy another session or 2, and then convince them to buy another session or 2. What we worked on was if she could do everything she wanted for them, that would really make the biggest difference or the biggest transformation in their life, what would she do? And she laid out this program, and she had an option. It was like a 6-month or a 12-month program. And so we started to position that with her clients. And effectively, I think the price point of that was an $8,000 program. And she started positioning it, and clients started going for it. So all of a sudden, rather than her getting $200 to $400 for 1 or 2 sessions up front, she's now getting $8,000 all in one go. She gets that money up front, and she can work with that client and have a bigger impact or bigger transformation because they're in with her for 6 months or 12 months. We paired that up with getting her, a couple of alliance partners who loved what she did. And those alliance partners refer people in, and she sells them on a package. So her business is transformed massively. She needs to work way less and earns way more. And the sales conversation happens once, right? She's not trying to do it every few sessions. So you can probably bundle in things up front as well. I work with some lawyers out of Ecuador. They made more profit in the first 3 months, January to March, than they did the whole of the previous year before, because what we did is we went through 20 different strategies. And one of the key ones we found was automated reminders for renewals. So they had all these clients who had patents expiring or trademarks expiring. And because they weren't reminding the clients in an effective way or following up with clients, then they would drop. So we set an automated reminder process. And of course, clients were immediately accepting, and that was money straight away. So having an automated reminder can really make a difference. Are you educating your clients on why they need to repurchase more frequently? Are you giving them education and reasons why they need to come back and buy again or another service or another product for you? And here's a question for you. Do you have a subscription or recurring revenue offer, right? Something where they can just buy again and again. Software companies are great at this. You sign up and they automatically renew every year or every month, and the money just automatically comes out of your account. So I've got clients who have recurring revenue offers. They start the month already knowing that their business, all their costs are covered and they're in profit. Even if they did no more sales or no more effort that month, because they got monthly recurring revenue, they're set. Now, a good example of this, I worked with a F45. I presume you have F45 there as a gym chain. And we helped reactivate some of their clients by just doing a text message and calls to the database, reminding them of a trial that we had on. It was like a challenge. And so we're getting past clients to come in for the challenge. And when they came in for the challenge, then we got them back into the gym and they signed up for memberships again. So I've got the picture here of an organ donor, because I think it was the Spanish government. They did a really great job on this. They were having the problem that the people in the country weren't signing up to be organ donors. So what they did is they changed the law, and they said, hey, everyone is going to be an organ donor unless you opt out. Now, because they did it that way, everyone was already opted in. They had many people willing to be organ donors. So I wonder, with some of your clients, can you get them to agree to re-enroll or continue unless they choose to opt out? It can make a small difference psychologically. I don't know if any of you have ever done this. You've been subscribed to something. You keep thinking, I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of that. And then a year later, you still have it. I don't know if anyone else does that, but certainly I know it can happen. Yeah. So are you doing promotional or reactivation campaigns with your past clients? If not, I think it would be a great idea. And can we get people to auto-renew just like the Spanish organ donor did? Okay. We are at number 5. So this is about expenses. I've got a picture of these airplanes on a warship. I watched a movie once, and they had this mission that they had to do. They had to take a lot of weight out of the aircraft to get it to be able to take off in a shorter period of time. And the reason they were doing that and innovating that was because, it was the first time they were going to get this airplane to take off of a ship. And so they had to get things out. And so, of course, they were going through and they're asking this question the whole way through with every part of the airplane. Is this really necessary? Is this really necessary? All of a sudden, the passenger seat went out, some bolts went out, and whatever else. And sure enough, they got this plane to be light enough to take off in a shorter space of time. I think that question is really powerful for us as business owners. As we look through our expenses in our business, can we ask the question, is this really necessary? What happens if we look at that and take that out? Does it impact the value given to the client? If it's not going to impact the value to the client, then maybe we need to consider, is it necessary? So in the report I've shared with you, there's 30 strategies there. You can ask, is this really necessary? A simple one you can do is go and renegotiate. If you have a large product or service that you're buying on a frequent basis, go and get a couple of quotes from other suppliers and compare. Now, if you love the current supplier that you're with, that's okay. If they don't come in with the best price, you don't necessarily have to say, hey, you're fired. You can go to them and say, hey, these other two people, I love working with you, but these other two people are giving me this option. I really want to stay with you, but is there anything you can do? I had this happen recently with a client, and they did this with their accountant. They actually love working with their accountant, but they thought they were getting charged too much. And sure enough, when they went to market, they were. Now, the accountant was very happy to reduce the price and just to keep them on. And so they, it was a win-win. They got to keep the connection with their accountant, but they got a better deal. Okay, so yeah, go get free quotes, compare. How many of you actually are reviewing your numbers on a monthly basis? If you're reviewing your numbers on a monthly basis, and particularly versus a budget, type a yes in the chat box. And if you're not, just type no. Either way is good. What we find is that when we review our numbers on a regular basis, particularly against a budget or a target, then we find that we make more frequent course corrections and adjustments, and we get to our outcome in a much faster time. So Diane, yes, big tick for you. So that's awesome. You're reviewing on a regular basis. And then I frequently meet clients and they only review their numbers once a year after the accountant has updated the numbers. And frequently those numbers are updated 6 months after the the year end has finished. So they're already 18 months out of date. So if we can review these numbers on a monthly basis, then it gives us a lot of power. And kudos to you, Candace, you're doing that as well. Here's another question for you. Have you implemented Profit First? Now, you may not know what Profit First is. There's an awesome book that summarizes this principle by a guy called Mike Michalowicz. And he talks about the idea that you just pay yourself first. He said, traditionally, we look at our finances and we say revenue less costs equals profit. So by default, as entrepreneurs, we're keeping what's left over. He said, you need to switch it the other way psychologically. You get your revenue, you then take out what profit you want, and then by default, you have to manage with what's left over. Now, it's interesting when you do this psychologically, you start managing your costs in a much more effective way. You start making some different choices, or you feel the pressure of, hey, if I have to keep that profit, and I've got too many costs here, how am I going to drive the additional revenue? So psychologically, it drives it. So if you haven't implemented a profit first strategy, then it may be worthwhile considering. Okay, I'm going to pause there. I think we had maybe a 45-minute window for this session. I reckon if I went quick, I could probably do time and cash flow in another 5 minutes. Do we have 5 minutes, or do I pause there? What's best? Yes, we do? Okay. All right. I've been gunning for this. I was hoping I get through in 45 minutes, but a little bit more than I hoped. So time is the other critical one then. So I worked through with a lady. She had this business, trophy making. So she would get like a piece of marble, put the trophy on it, put a plaque on it. And, that was essentially the business, and it would go to sports teams, etc. And we reviewed her time using my productivity matrix, and we identified where her time was going. She was spending a lot of time in the area of things that were low skill, as in other people could do it, and not much fun for her. And there was all this opportunity up here, which she'd rather be doing, which was high fun for her, and stuff that really only she could do in the business. So what we identified was that this low skill, low fun stuff was like the marketing, not the marketing, it was the bookkeeping and the making of the trophies. She could outsource the making of the trophies to an intern at very low cost because it was just such a simple thing to do. The bookkeeping she could put with a bookkeeper at a very low cost as well. And so she saved half of her time on that stuff, which meant she had time for this high skill, high fun stuff. The high skill, high fun stuff was actually the marketing and the sales. Now you can imagine if she doubled the amount of time she could put into marketing and sales, her business over doubled in 6 months, because rather than the marketing time going chasing after individual teams, we could use that time to be strategic and go after the whole league, right? So first off, we got the soccer league, and then we're able to go after the cricket league. So the league then had all the teams under it. And of course, the business grew very rapidly. So if we could focus in on how you're spending your time and utilizing your time right now, if we could save you 10 to 20 hours per week, how would it change your life? The gardener I mentioned before, it's doing him a disservice to call him a gardener. He has a gardening business, and he has several locations. He was working 80 hours plus per week. And when we did this and reviewed this with him, we identified some things he'd get off his plate. He was able to hire a general manager, actually, and that got him down to 50 hours per week. And the general manager then freed him up, so he could be doing the things like applying for new tenders, because he had that extra time. He was able to apply for another tender with the government. He picks a big government contract, which made it more than profitable to have the general manager there. And because he had additional time and cash flow, he was able to go and invest in in property to get him a higher return as well. So if you could get 10 to 20 hours back into your life, how would that change things for you? What difference would that make for you? Okay. And finally, cash. I have a question for you. Do you know what your working capital cycle is in days? Now, if you're not familiar with that term, that's okay. That's okay. Doesn't get spoken about too much in business, but the working capital cycle is really how long your money is out of the business. So if I give you an example, someone like Amazon has been able to grow so effectively because they have this positive working capital cycle, right? They get paid by their customers, so all the money's in their pocket, and then a while later, then they pay their suppliers, right? So maybe they get the money and they probably on average pay their suppliers 25 days later. So they've always got more cash in their pocket than they need to be paying out, which makes it easier to grow. Whereas a lot of other businesses have it the other way around, right? They will spend money to buy some stock. They then have to do some work on that stock, right? And then they sell it, and then the customers don't pay them for another period of time. Okay, so then they're out that whole period of time as well. So a lot of businesses have a negative working capital cycle. So question is, do you know what your working capital cycle is? Do you know how many days on average your cash is out of the business? Or are you like Amazon? Do you have a positive cash? So if you know what your working capital cycle is in days, give me a thumbs up, a yay, or if you don't, then give me a nay. I see some people concentrating heavily on this one. Maybe that's a nay on that one. So how much better could your business be if we could improve your working capital cycle? So there you go. So just as a quick recap then, we've covered off all 7 big profit leaks: new leads, better conversion, increase your average dollar sale, purchase more frequently, less expenses or manage expenses more effectively, manage your time more effectively, or manage cash more effectively. I'd love you to just write in the chat box which one of those would make the biggest difference to your business, right? So just write number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Which one is the area that you most need to focus on right now? Right, so Dion, great job. Average dollar sale, so number 3. Thank you. Okay, cool. Dan, you've never worked that out. Dan, yours might be interesting because I think you probably take payment for a lot of your stuff up front. So you might be in a positive cash cycle, I would guess. Yeah, so it's probably good for you. Conrad, 7. Yeah, okay. Managing the cash more effectively. Yeah, I think it can be an important piece. And we have that cash in the business. We can go and reinvest it in other things. So, okay. And so let me just show you the impact this can make then. So I want to give you an example of a business. Let's just say this business has, 800 leads with a 20% conversion. They do an average dollar sale of 1,000 and they do four transactions. That's 640,000 in sales with a cost of sales of 50%, and overheads, they net around 100,000. So what I want to show you is what happens if we just targeted a 5% increase in each of these areas. Okay. So a 5% increase in 6 areas, we could get those leads from 800 to 840, conversion from 20% to 21%, right? And then we can get the average dollar sale up to 1,050 and the number of transactions on average to 4.2. That would take the sales in this instance up 22%. Right now, you would kind of presume it would be 20% because 5% plus 5% plus 5% plus 5%, but it compounds. you end up getting like 5% on the 5% on the 5%, which is why you end up with 22% increase. Now, if you could manage your cost of sales down as well, which theoretically you may or may not be able to do, and you can manage your costs down, what that would do is in this business, those 6 increases of 5% or changes of 5% would actually add an additional $100,000 onto this business, right? So don't overestimate or underestimate the power of a small change in each of these areas. You can actually have a pretty major impact overall in your business. Now, as I promised, I did say that I would share with you the link to this thing here, and oops, let me just pop it in the chat box. There you go. So if you wanted to go and do your profitable business scorecard, you can. That will identify for you your 36-point checklist. So you can just go to the link there I put in the chat box. So that's just profit.gifts. Super quick, super easy, and it will tell you where are the gaps, where are you missing them right now. After today's session, you may have a reasonably good idea, but this one's a little bit more comprehensive and in detail. Now, given that Diane has very kindly let me come on to the call today, I know we've got like 10 or 12 of us here right now. What I'd like to do is I'd also like to offer the opportunity, if you feel as though based on what we discussed today, there's some opportunity for you in your business and you'd like to work through with someone on that, then I'd be open to spending some time with you. As I say, when I do these calls with my clients and my prospects, typically within 45 minutes of going through your business and asking a few questions, we can normally find $100,000 or more in profit increase opportunity. So if you're interested in that and you wanted to, to take up on that, I'd be more than happy to spend some time with you and help you out with that. Before we finish up though, and I just want to be mindful of your time and particularly your power's about to go off very soon, I'd love to hear from you just in the chat box. Maybe not what are your top 3 insights. Maybe if there was just one key insight, if there's one thing that was super valuable for you today or was really helpful for you today, what would that be? What was the number 1 insight or number 1 takeaway from the call today? Yeah, Eon, price anchor. Yes, price anchor is very valuable. Anyone else? What was the number 1 thing for you? Okay, Lauren, Justin. Okay. Okay. Price anchor is an interesting topic. Yeah, we really skimmed over that one as well. There's a lot of examples we can bring on that one. So, okay, all right, that's very useful. Price anchor seems like it's hit the spot. So all of you are going to be heading out now to sell $1,000 cat hotel nights, are you? So that's great. Are there any questions before you before you carry on with your day? Do you have any questions? I'm happy to take some questions before you run.
So
no,
everybody goes quiet for a minute. You've got to give them a moment to think, though. But
think.
there will always
Sure.
be a question. Thanks, Kevin.
Okay,
Yeah,
no, that's okay. I appreciate. I've just downloaded a lot of knowledge in a very short period of time. This is something we could do every day, and we've squashed a lot in a short period. So if you don't have any, that's cool. And then whilst you're thinking of questions, then if you did want to have a complimentary session with me, I'm more than happy to speak with. Oops. I don't want to just. I'm more than happy to speak with any of you. I'll just pop the link there in the chat box if I can. Oh, it's not letting me. Oh, I'm not sure what I've done. I can share the link with you, Diane. That's okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Dion. Have we got a question?
Yeah, quick question. With the price anchoring, I build shipping container homes. And one of the things that people actually think that it is much cheaper and all of those nice things, which it's not. Now, with the price anchoring, I want to do 3 levels. So it would be the premium, the luxury, and the budget. Now, with the premium, what would be the best way to do it? Do we go like way out there and do the luxury at the normal price and the budget at a cheaper price? Or would that just take me out of the market?
Hey, you know what? I think you could go, let's think of the PR angle or the marketing angle here. If you went the most extreme you could possibly do, right? What would that look like? And would that be that you got a famous designer involved, or would that be that is gold plated, and what would it be? You don't actually have to sink your money into this and make this thing right now, but you could have it as a concept. What would you have if it was the most extreme or most lavish container you could ever have? What would it be?
Well, I've already started working on this. So, I mean, it would include garden furniture, top range garden furniture. It would include deck and all of those nice things. It would include full automation and security with regards to internet lighting, etc., etc. It would include Alexa controls. It would also include high-end appliances like the Smeg appliances, and what else would it be? As well as solar backup power. And that would add quite a substantial amount.
There you go. So I think you could start by pitching that or marketing that, right? Just for the social media would probably go nuts on this. Like, can you imagine, you know, that you've got something as as lavish as this, in a container? So I think that's probably a good place that you can go. Now, with those things, your premium end, it's very custom. So whilst you can say right now, maybe, and I don't know the price points of these things, right now you say I got the budget, the luxury, and the premium, you could say, and the premium, we can customize it as much as you want. So if someone says, hey, typically what's your most expensive container right now?
Well, I'm busy building a house for 2 million rand at the moment.
Okay, so right now you can say, hey, our prices for these containers range anywhere from, and I'm not sure what the cheapest one is because I don't know the currency. You could say our cheapest one is X dollars up to 2 million. Well, with this premium strategy, you can say, hey, look, you know, typically we can go anywhere from X dollars right the way up to, and then what that premium price is. Now, if people are anchored, if you said, hey, we've just designed one, and this one has the Smeg appliances, the home automation, the this or that, and that one's going to be, you know, a cost of, what is the cost of that? How much do you need to charge? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Then that's the psychological anchor. We've just designed this one. It's the super premium, and the super premium is 10 million. And here's what you get in it, is all of these things. Now, I appreciate that's not going to fit for everyone's needs, but you know, we have that and we do anything in between. And now psychologically, I'm anchored to a 10 million point rather than a 2 million point. So if all of a sudden you start talking to them about, hey, here's the 2 million luxury package, but I recommend, hey, we could get in some of these other things in there, you would probably stretch them to a 3 or 4 because psychologically they're anchored now to the 10 mil.
On that, with the social media marketing and stuff like that, would you suggest we actually market it? Because I did the pricing at one stage and it just went absolutely berserk with like hate mails and this is too expensive, etc., etc.
Well, I think that's the thing with marketing, right? In any aspect, a little bit of polarization is not necessarily a bad thing. There's people who said this is too expensive aren't going to be your customers for that type of thing.
Exactly.
But there are people who would be open to that and would be attracted to that. Same as this lady, you know, with the cat hotel. I mean, no one's ever going to pay over $1,400 a night for the cat to have a sleep. Like, it's crazy. But people kind of thought it was fun, thought it was amusing. And so you could easily see how, you know, your radio station or your newspaper would love to run an article on, you know, this trend, you know, of, you know, luxury containers. I think there's probably a whole PR angle there. Like, can you imagine these luxury containers? Now, it's not, and here's the point, it's not for everyone, right? It's, you know, it's for the people who actually really want to have a, you know, a luxury solution. And you could easily say that, hey, we have products that range from whatever your lowest price is, you know, right the way up to that. And you could say that most of our clients actually spend around 3 mil, right? Or whatever price point you want to anchor them to. But you could just say there's a demand for it in the marketplace and we're just catering for the demand. Like, if people hate on it, whatever, it's attention, I think. Does it hurt you? Does it damage you in any way, or is it just noise?
No, it's just noise. It's just literally getting rid of the people that think they're going to get it for like 10,000 bucks.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's right. Then they were never going to be your buyers anyway, right? And that's the key thing. Now, they say that's expensive. There are people who go and buy jets or yachts. I mean, you can buy a yacht, you know, close to $1 billion, right? Is that? I'm sure the yacht companies get shouts that that's ridiculous, that's crazy, but there are still people who want to spend $1 billion on a yacht. I guess so. If they have the money, why not? So,
got it.
So, and I think for you, the thought here is this is primarily is a marketing and positioning thing. You don't necessarily have to go and build this luxury high-end thing because until someone orders it, it's a custom thing. right? So don't think you need to go and spend, you know,
So-
8 mil on this and have it sat around hoping for someone to come. don't do
So
that.
in other words, if somebody suddenly orders it, I go, oh shit.
Yeah, if someone orders it, then you go, thank you very much. I'm going to make very good margin on this. I'll make it happen.
Yeah,
That's
cool.
awesome.
Thank you.
Nice one. So we're on the hour, and I know everybody is needing to go off and go and work. And a huge thank you to Kevin. I'm sure I've made loads of notes yet again after the second time of listening to this. There's still way more things to do, but I'm sure everybody got value from it. And Kevin, a huge thank you. But guys, please reach out to Kevin and download the book. First of all, go through it, see what you can do, what you can add, what you can change, and then reach out to Kevin for on his Calendly and see if you can book some time with him, because it's very interesting. We all want an extra $100,000 for South Africa. That's probably $1 million or so rands. So that's always a very nice on our bottom line, especially if you're putting a lot of that into profit, which we always talk about. So Kevin, huge thank you. Guys, please reach out to Kevin and have a conversation. You can hear he has amazing knowledge, and he definitely can help with each one of your businesses. So have an awesome day. Until next time, we will chat again. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Kevin. That was amazing. I've had a couple of people already send me messages to say, can they have the links? So I've reshared the links with everybody. So hopefully you will, they will download and they'll get in contact with you, because it's definitely something that they all need.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Awesome, awesome group of people you have here, and what a great community you've got. So thank you for